Everyone, welcome to part 2 of my seasonal relic review. This time I'm going to be going into the armors. There's 2 of each type, light, medium, heavy. For the heavy, there's 1 of each subtype. If you know what I mean, there's the one that has the 1 AP penalty and one that has the 2 AP penalty. The 2 heavy armors have stronger defensive stats, so it's cool that they kind of gave 1 of each. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of preface to this. Let's just start seeing what we have for sale. Starting with light armor, the Spirit Guardian Sigil. Soul fragments expire after 1 extra turn. This is just a sort of utility ability. It's not going to be something going to be great for helping you kill stuff, but if you're really trying to maximize getting as many souls as possible, this is useful for that. It has some decent defensive abilities on it as well. Teleport 2 tiles away from attacking unit when hit by a melee attack. This is light armor, which means it's going on your marksman or your arcanist. So this does kind of help protect him if you sent them to go get a soul and they're kind of in the open, someone comes and hit them, it'll help protect them a bit. Plus 1 turn duration for potions, gain 3 armor after each encounter if no damage was received. If you're playing smart with your marksman or your arcanist, this is doable. 3 isn't a whole lot, but it's something. Especially for them when marksmen at least have very, very little armor. And minus 5 damage received from range attack. It's some pretty basic stuff, honestly. Defensively, this one doesn't do a whole lot for me. You're really only taking this if you're struggling with getting those souls in each of the encounters. Second is Netherwalker Seal, one that I actually really like. Enemies also suffer the penalties of soul fragments picked up by the hero. If you are not aware, when you pick up a soul fragment, each one, depending on the color, will impart a debuff to whoever picks it up for 2 turns. The turn they picked it up and then their following turn. Now, you can apply these debuffs to the enemies, which includes vulnerability, silence, weaken, some decent debuffs. So this is a good way to be like, if I'm going to take something, you're going to take something too. But that's not why I like it. I like it because of this next one, Become Hidden After Killing a Unit. This isn't really an armor I see useful for an arcanist, neither of them really are. But for a marksman, this is great. Because you become hidden, you can get the surprise damage bonus as well, stacking on top with the marksman, and this really does a lot to help them get that damage buffs they've been needing. So if you've seen my marksman build guide that I put out recently on how to make your marksman useful in the current endgame season, this is a pretty good contributor to that build. Additionally, dodge first incoming attack of each encounter, just some extra survivability, 27% mental debuff, and plus 2 movement AP. That movement AP is actually quite useful for a marksman to make sure you're still getting that damage bonus off of that, what's it called? First shot ability, I think it is, where the first attack each round or the first ability each round does 50% more damage. So you can reposition a little bit and then get your attack off. For medium armors, similar to theme with the light armors, one of them I like a lot more than the other, and that would be this one, the Soul Snare Sigil. This is really good for vanguards. Primarily, sages won't get a whole lot of use out of this, and also Sir Bors, one of the marksmen that is capable of wearing medium armor. This ability, soul fragments expire 2 turns later, so similar to this one, but just better. I'm not sure why they gave this one 2, but this one 1. But I mean, they do stack together, so you can really, if you're really struggling with those soul fragments, consider using both. Movement costs 33% less AP. For a Vanguard, that is insane. Your Vanguards need to do a lot of running around. I mean, they have a lot of AP to begin with, a lot of movement AP, but now they can just get even more results out of that AP. So this is just crazy. This next one, though, this is why it's really good for Sir Bors. Minus 1 AP for the cost of range skills, to a minimum of 1. So now, Sir Bors, a marksman, all of his abilities cost 1 less AP, which is a pretty big deal. This makes a substantial difference in getting in 1 or 2 extra attacks in per round. I don't have a video together yet showing off how this performs on him, but I do hope to have one out soon. The other abilities are kind of whatever, +2 turn for poison durations and minus 8 damage received from range attacks. That last one is mostly useful for marksmen because vanguards are going to be hidden 99% of the time. But The movement alone, great for your Vanguard, and the AP cost reduction for range skills, amazing for boars. On Vanguards, it's still useful for, their throw knife. That's nowhere near as significant for them, though. The second medium armor, the Soul Collector Seal, enemies lose X% of their vitality whenever the hero picks up a soul fragment. This can actually get to a decent percentage. Nothing amazing, but I do remember it got above 20%, for example, which is very noticeable, especially for trying to set up kills if you have a secondary damage dealer in there, like if you're bringing a champion and a Vanguard, for example, or something. It's not amazing, but it's definitely great to help your follow-up turns for your Vanguards to then go kill the remaining enemies. The dodge the first incoming attack each encounter, again, not super relevant because you're hidden most of the time. And I'm not even taking boars in consideration for this because you're going to be taking the other one for boars. 50% of damage suffered gained as a bonus damage until the next attack. Again, not super useful if you're a Vanguard. I mean, for a Sage, this would be okay. Regain +5 armor when resting and +2 movement AP. Honestly, this is probably a much better Sage armor than a Vanguard one, because Vanguards are actually going to get attacked, and they could use these abilities much more. And personally, I do use my Sages to pick up soul fragments because of that Death Wish ability, where they gain 1 AP every time something dies. So as a Sage armor, this is actually pretty solid. Last up is the heavy armor. We have two different ones here. We have this sort of lighter heavy armor and the heavier heavy armor. I don't really have good terms for these, but the one with the -1 AP penalty and the one with the -2. The -2, of course, having stronger defensive stats. You can see here, 96 and 20 versus 64 and 14. I'll just say off the bat, this one right here, I pretty much never take the 1 AP penalty heavy armors just because I want the heavier defensive stats. So for my own personal play, the Spire ability is decent, but it's nothing I would use. If you do like the lighter ones, then, I'm still going to go into it. Plus 25% to obtained Spire Shards, so you do get some extra Spire Shard gain, which does have some benefit. It'll let you level up your Spire abilities faster. It has a Martyr ability, so after the hero has received 5 hits, you gain plus 50% burning damage for 2 turns. The Martyr ability is super easy to trigger for your defenders. Champions, also not super hard, but very, very easy for your defenders, especially if it's a defender with taunt. Plus 50% of damage suffered gained as bonus damage until the next attack. Plus 5% damage until the end of the encounter for each hit received, and ignore 25% of incoming attacks, armor breaking value. So there's a bit to go into here. Obviously, this is an offensive heavy armor, because the more attacks you're taking, the more damage you're taking, the more damage you'll dish back. And the 50% burning, this basically makes it a Galahad or Percival armor, because their basic attacks apply burning, as well as having some fire-based spells. Other than that, you're going to have to be taking a weapon that applies burning, like this one here, to combo off of the Martyr ability. So you can kind of work around with this if you want something a bit more offensively oriented, but just know that this is 50% of damage suffered, so this actually isn't great for a defender. I mean, with it being a lighter heavy armor, it's not as bad, but if you take 0, basically what I'm trying to get at is if you take 0 damage because your block is super high and your armor is really high, this won't give you any extra damage on that ability. The other one, enemies lose X% of their AP on their first turn of each encounter. This can actually get pretty high. I've seen this reach around 40-ish%, I think even higher. Basically, this is just a great first turn debuff to all the enemies to help you get extra time to set up. So they lose a bunch of their AP, so really their range units will get like 1 attack in, or they'll just be able to run up to you, or even only part of the way up to you. So this is a great first turn defensive ability. When an adjacent unit takes bleeding damage, you gain that much HP back. Again, if you're not using a whole lot of bleeds, you're not going to get much use out of this, and generally I don't use bleeds. This definitely seems like one of those items you're going to have to build into a little bit. Again, kind of seems like it's kind of building off of this one, this weapon here. Plus 50% physical debuff resist, which is huge. gain 2 AP on the first turn of each encounter. Also really good for champions with their damage focus ability, and plus 9 HP. This one is kind of a weird one. That Spire ability is really good, the physical debuff is really good, and even that plus 2 AP on the first turn is decent. The bleeding ability is just kind of weird, super niche, I don't see much use in it. And again, just ultimately, there's just other armors I tend to prefer. I mean, you can see the comparison here for my Mordred. I would rather use this Hex Mark of Impunity. The ability to turn towards the attacking unit is the best ability a defender could have, for example, but let's say you have that on another item, so you don't need that. Then I guess maybe in that case, this one may be better, just for that Spire ability. The whole rest of it is kind of, it's decent, but there's nothing crazy here, I guess, is my ultimate takeaway from this. I mean, something like this, I would prefer the Juggernaut seal for my champion over this, just because of the movement AP and the immunity to stun. So there's decent options here for both, just nothing amazing. And that wraps up the seasonal armor relics. As you can see, there's definitely some of these I'm a really big fan of. There's some others where I think can definitely work. They're just more sort of build around items where you kind of need to adjust your build to them to really maximize them, and there's nothing wrong with that for sure. I think that actually is a fun dynamic that the game can have where you find something really good and then you to really just press with it, see what you can get out of it, you kind of shape your skills around it a bit. I mean, for example, the burn builds for Ector/Merlin, both of them, basically you get like one good item and you pretty much change your entire build around it. But there's definitely a lot here for a lot of different playstyles, a lot of different things that you can definitely use depending on what you're looking for. I've had a lot of fun using these, and next time I'm going to go into all of the accessories. There's a lot here, it's the biggest category, so I definitely feel like this should be its own part. Putting them together, I think, will just make the video too long. This part's probably going to be the shortest as it has the fewest items, but I hope this was helpful or useful to any players out there trying to figure out what it is they like. As I sort of mentioned before, I haven't used all of these items equally. I tried to play around with them to some degree, and if I overlooked something in my playtesting and my review, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I definitely would like to hear from you if you found some sort of potential with one of these that I may have overlooked. I like to think that, I have pretty good takes and insight into the game, but I am just one person. I don't catch everything. As always, thanks for watching.